Evening television news, broadcasting live and available on demand. Available on all smart televisions, including Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, Amazon Fire TV, and of course you can watch us in YouTube and Facebook. It's time to queer up the news. It's Tuesday, August 9th, 2022. It's 8 p.m. And we are live, and we are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we're going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight with Al Ferguson.
I'm your anchor at Queer News Tonight, Al Ferguson, and this evening we bring you the news of and a perspective representing the LGBTQ plus community from South Florida, America, and across our planet.
This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ plus evening news show. Whatever happens, you will hear and see it.
Happening Out Television Network is a 501c3 nonprofit media platform in the television and radio model of PBS and NPR, but for our LGBTQ plus community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ plus media companies in America, Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network.
Our magazine is celebrating 36 years of the LGBTQ plus experience, and our television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ plus and broader community.
Well, let's begin tonight by welcoming anchor Ryan Hurst. Ryan is the marketing and fundraising manager for the National LGBTQ Task Force. He has worked in social justice for over 10 years with organizations like Lambda Legal Defense and Education Fund and People for the American Way Foundation. He also serves as the vice president of Florida State University's Pride Alumni Network. Welcome, Ryan.
Thank you very much for having me. Let's welcome anchor Chris Vila. Chris is a Miami native and is a professor of sociology and psychology who teaches at Nova Southeastern University and Broward College. He is also an LGBTQ plus advocate who volunteers with numerous organizations, and he's the administrator of Spill the Tea, Wilt Manor's Facebook group. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you, Ryan. Let's welcome anchor Dr. Tai Houser. He is an associate professor of English and Humanities at Broward College. Additionally, he teaches for extended periods of time at international colleges in China, India, Spain, and Bolivia. Good evening, Tai.
Good evening. It's nice to have a Broward College colleague here.
Thank you.
And Al, when we were out the other weekend on the drive, I had someone come up to me and say, you know, I saw you sitting in Al's chair for the first time the other week. You should do that more often.
Oh, no.
Let's welcome anchor Jeff Oliverio. Jeff is a founder and treasurer of the Hollywood LGBTQ Plus Council. The council will be hosting the second annual My Hollywood Pride on January 22nd, 2023. He's also the chair for the 2022 National LGBTQ Task Force Gala, Red, White, and You, being held October 22nd, 2022 at Miami Beach Convention Center. The gala is the premier celebration for South Florida's LGBTQ community, and along with its sister event, White Party Festival, has given back more than $3.3 million to local LGBTQ community organizations. This year's event will also fund the Queer the Vote campaign to engage and mobilize LGBTQ voters. Good evening, Jeff.
Good evening. I won't let it slide. We are the Winter Party Festival for the task force, so I want to get that plug in. But my plug tonight is early voting is starting in Broward County, so
Yes.
Please make sure to get out and vote. Thank you. We are the reporters for Queer News Tonight, and this evening we begin with the queer headlines for Tuesday, August 9th.
Well, let's begin by queering up politics. The war against LGBTQ seems inevitable from the GOP after Trump South Florida Mar-A-Lago raid.
We can't have someone in the Oval Office who doesn't understand the meaning of the word confidential or classified. In my administration, I'm going to enforce all laws concerning the protection of classified information.
That was from 2016. The LGBTQ plus community has become the favorite target of conservatives. We are the villains to their heroes, personalities like DeSantis and, of course, Donald Trump. Last night on Fox News, a guest commentator went on a rampage after Mar-A-Lago was raided, saying how this investigation was entirely Democrats trying to distract from other issues. We at Queer News Tonight would like to point out that the leader of the FBI and the person in charge of the raid was Trump-appointed Christopher Wray. An investigation of this type cannot be done without a warrant. The judge who issued the warrant for the search was Trump-appointed Judge Bruce Reinhart of the United States District Court for the Southern District of Florida. Ron DeSantis called this a weaponization of federal agencies against the regime's political opponents. The party of law and order is set to completely discount the country's legal system in order to galvanize voters against the Democrats, setting it up as a religious battle between good and evil instead of the justice system investigating alleged illegal activity. This is likely to increase the divide between the rational and irrational voters in this country, and as irrationality and lawlessness are supported by Republican leaders, we can be assured that the attacks on the LGBTQ plus community will become more heated and more violent.
So my aunt texted me late last night and she said,
we have a lot of questions. I mean, we see how poorly it's going for this administration. Is this just a distraction? Are they trying to distract us from the horrific economy? Are they trying to distract us from the loss of wages and the loss of jobs and the recovery that was thwarted by his $1 trillion rescue plan right out of the gate? I mean, we have to ask these questions because all of the stuff that they've ever accused Trump of, so far they have not provided any kind of substance to back up these claims. And I'm tired of hearing about Russia, and I'm tired of hearing about Comey is coming. Comey never came. He left. And guess what? All of this stuff with Russia looks more to implicate the Bidens than it ever did Trump. I'm so tired of this tantrum from this party.
Yeah, so my aunt texted me late last night and said, "Happy Mar-A-Lago Invasion Day."
Oh, dear.
Well, I tell you, if you looked in his toilet last night, you would not find pieces of paper, but bricks.
Oh.
And you know, it's true, though, that LGBTQ plus people are under attack, not only in Florida, but in states across the country from every level of government. And that's why the National LGBTQ Task Force Action Fund is going to be on the ground here in Florida and other states, specifically focusing on school board elections and state legislatures.
Mm.
It's so important. I know as a professor at a certain institution, we received a very threatening email in our inbox about a survey, which is part of HB 233, which is meant to chill any kind of free speech, and that's what its intention was. Now, critics have since said, "Oh no, it's completely voluntary," and but is it? And even if it isn't being participated in, people don't participate in it, it still says, watch what you say in your classroom. Be careful what you talk about.
At Broward College?
Yeah. Well, I think it went to every institution. It was part of
And so I quickly ran to my committee, my graduate committee, and they were just up in arms about it. And they, because I mean, you can't have a true survey if your name's on it. That's not a legitimate survey because it has an identifier. But its goal is really to chill the free speech and to sort, I mean, in theory, it's supposed to allow for a diversity. I think it's called Intellectual Freedom and Diversity Survey.
Mm. Which it seems like neither of those things are true.
Yeah,
right.
So. that was essentially the gist of it. But the thing about this that I love is that these are Trump's people enforcing the law on Trump. This is what this is all about.
It's really tricky how those laws work.
Yeah.
You know, that they come back to bite you. And the commentary about distraction from a party that is the
gaslighting.
Yes, they are, the textbook, as we have described them many times over and over, of gaslighting. This is the true definition.
You know, it's interesting that you point this out about Christopher Wray, Trump appointed, authorized this. The federal judge that authorized this in secret because they considered that the risk of destruction of evidence was so great that it was going to be an unannounced raid. That's why they didn't ask him to bring it in or we'll negotiate time, because the federal judge decided, wait, there's reasonable risk here, appointed by Donald Trump. Those are two facts that cannot be set aside. No matter how much distraction, no matter how much gaslighting, they cannot be set aside. The other thing that I think is interesting in what happened last night is it's the same kind of thing of what Fox News and DeSantis and Lindsey Graham and others tried to sell last night, which is this is an absolute uber left attack on democracy. They make the exact same argument that Bannon did at CPAC over the weekend, which is any intelligent person knows absolutely that Joe Biden is an illegitimate president of the United States and did not win. But interesting, the ones that we've learned from the January 6th hearings that indicated that that was not true was the vice president and the chief of staff and the White House senior counsel and White House staff and the majority of the cabinet all said, no, that's not true, which is exactly what Ray did in this authorization in the federal judge.
And the Attorney General, William Barr.
Right, and the Attorney General, part of the cabinet. So their lie is catching up with them. Now the question is, how loudly can Fox News scream it from the rafters? Interesting, that piece that we just did. I said, oh, we for sure got to get this in, because this was at 7 o'clock. He broke the news live at about 7:12 last night. One of the interviews in this piece that we did, we went in to get this piece because we wanted to get it. One of the talking squirrels at Fox, I'm very familiar with all of the talking squirrels because Tucker Carlson's my best friend. And Tucker and I are just like this. He came on and said, this is bullshit, live on Fox News, and started pounding his fist on the table, saying as a dog whistle, this is why everyone must go out and register to vote. We are going to wash them all away. And he's starting to speak this way live in Fox. And I thought, holy mother of God, we've crossed a line that I've frankly never seen. We went in this morning to try to get it, and what did Fox do? They washed it away. They took it away. That piece is cleverly edited to take that whole section out.
My whole point to this thing is, let's show the receipts. If this is a witch hunt, show the receipts. His lawyers have a copy of the search warrant. Release it.
Yeah.
Let us see what they were looking for.
Yeah. One last thought. This is really, really good news. Not because of the internet exploding last night of all of the radical left or the radical right, set both of those sides aside. All of the middle of the road, this is really, really good news. And the reason this is good news is they argue it's an attack on democracy. The left says it's the defense of democracy. Whether either one of those observations are true, what is really good here is in the chants that took place at the Republican convention, lock her up, lock her up. What if alleged that they were searching for is true, it is dramatically worse than why Hillary Clinton should have been locked up. And that means, even if they don't, it means if he's convicted on this, it's like the Al Capone charge. We can't get him for murder, we're going to get him for tax evasion. And that's what got Al Capone. Won't it be interesting that we get Donald Trump, meaning America, gets Donald Trump for taking classified documents? Because the only value to America and the LGBTQ community is they can't run for federal office ever again. Victory, touchdown.
Exactly.
That's why they're screaming bloody murder, because they know that risk is at hand now.
Very good. So let's next queer up health. Here's how gay men can contract monkeypox, what you need to know. The current monkeypox outbreak has been covered extensively by the media. According to the Center for Disease Control, there are currently just under 9,000 cases in the United States. Currently, 99% of cases in the U.S. are males, with 94% of cases being in gay or bisexual men. Why is this virus targeting our community? One reason is in the way it spreads. It can be spread by skin-to-skin contact, as is frequently found in bars and dance clubs. The gay community, more so than our straight counterparts, are likely to be shirtless while dancing in a busy bar. Brushing against someone with a monkeypox rash or scabs can spread the virus. The gay obsession with having a perfect gym body can also be a cause. Gym equipment and towels can spread the virus if they are touched by someone with an active monkeypox case. Being sexually active can also spread the disease. While monkeypox is not a sexually transmitted infection, it can be spread through sexual contact. This is not limited to penetrative sex, but also the simple acts of intimately touching someone or even hugging or kissing them can spread it. While this may sound frightening, it is important to remember that monkeypox is not generally dangerous, only painful. It is also good to know that existing vaccines for smallpox are very effective against monkeypox. While this is not a disease that specifically targets gay men, there are risky behaviors that increase the spread. We recommend everyone get a vaccine as soon as possible, as you are able.
There is one FDA-approved vaccine for the prevention of monkeypox. The vaccine, which is called JYNNEOS, was approved in 2019 for the prevention of smallpox and monkeypox disease in adults 18 years of age and older at high risk for smallpox or monkeypox infection. The vaccine is made from a modified vaccinia virus that cannot reproduce in the body or cause disease on its own, and does not contain the viruses that cause smallpox or monkeypox. Studies have shown that 2 doses of the JYNNEOS vaccine, given 28 days apart, can provide protection from monkeypox.
There seems to be a lot of fear of monkeypox, and I think that there is a lot of misinformation. First, we know in Britain, especially, Britain starting the conversation and now moving to America, there's this, it's the gay disease, and they're making these comparisons to the way AIDS and HIV moved from the community. It's completely different. AIDS and HIV were a sexually contracted disease among gay men, how it started and moved beyond that, of course. This situation is a typical example of the spread of the virus, which is what's really critically important. You can't get beyond that. This story, I think, is very interesting because it is explaining why it is the majority of gay men. Not that gay men are contracting it in an active way, it's a passive, inactive way. Dancing in clubs of skin-to-skin contact, etc. And that's really important for our conversation. Gay men can limit the exposure to monkeypox by making sure that they're comfortable in terms of the skin-to-skin contact that they have. And in gyms, wiping equipment down and sterilizing it.
Yeah, I mean, we've dealt with, the whole AIDS crisis, and we know about all that, and being active and alerting one another and getting out there and making a difference and raising awareness. So we just have to do this as well. We have to raise awareness and make smarter decisions about what we're doing and the amount of people, and like these large sweaty clubs that people are rubbing up against each other are fun.
Which ones? Where are they?
But, it's common sense, and until this thing abates, eventually, hopefully it will, we just have to be smarter and make those proper choices. And I think it's everyone's responsibility.
I'm curious, does anybody at the table think that individual states of emergency have been declared in some states, New York, for example, it's being discussed on the federal level. With 9,000 cases in America, South Florida is a significant percentage of the cases. Broward County is a very significant percentage of the cases. But with that, in terms of the numbers, does anybody think that this doesn't rise to a medical crisis, kind of like the drum that's being beat in the media?
Well, I think that the making it a national emergency is, of course, based on the fact that we don't have as many vaccines. So if it were to spread uncontrolled in some capacity, we don't have enough vaccines to vaccinate the country. So I guess it's more of a warning sign than anything else.
The speed of the spread, I think, is what makes it alarming. The speed of it. It's
and then the strain that it would put on our healthcare system if it were to become uncontrolled.
Another question I have is just in general, your reaction and taking the temperature of the gay male community, gay men in our community. Are you worried about monkeypox? Are you worried about transmission of monkeypox? Is it active in your decision making in terms of where you're at or what you're doing?
Well, I thought we were doing the show tonight topless, so I'm a little. No, I did. I did get my first shot. I'll be getting my second one soon. So I mean, I think it is important that we.
And did you do that over fear, or
no, just over I think responsibility. It's my responsibility to help stop.
The reason I asked the question on the fear is basically in South Florida. If South Florida is any example, and we're probably a positive example, you can't get. For all intents and purposes, you can't get the vaccine because of the number of people trying to get the vaccine versus the amount of vaccine available in South Florida. The two different numbers are just dramatically, there's a disconnect. If you add Birmingham, Alabama or Mobile into the mix of where you're trying to get it, it's impossible to get the vaccine. So that's why I asked the question, are you scared? Are you worried?
I've definitely had I agree with you. I think that responsibility plays a lot into it. But I mean, obviously, no one wants to get a disease that causes pain, can potentially scar you. I've had friends who have traveled down here to South Florida because of vaccine availability. Tallahassee just had their first monkeypox case, and you can't get the vaccine there. But I think there's another danger that we're missing, and that is how the media is talking about how monkeypox plays into the LGBT community. I think it is very dangerous for us to be scapegoated as the cause of monkeypox. We saw violence and a backlash occur against the AAPI community as a result of COVID, and I think we have a responsibility to call that out and not to play into that narrative.
And at the same time, Ryan, though, we do have to be responsible because you see people out there just throwing caution to the wind and hoping they'll get everyone's racing to get the vaccine, but a little bit of, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Yeah. So, I mean, I think part of the blame is to be a little more responsible. All your points are well taken. We're often made into a scapegoat. But we also have to rise up and be responsible and make smarter choices.
Does anybody think the amount of vaccine that is available and the speed of how states and the federal government are responding is like the early days of the AIDS crisis? It's a gay thing, which is your point. It clearly is not. That is absolutely incorrect. It is absolutely incorrect. It's gaslighting as you move it into those areas because you have a motivation to do that. But does anybody think that the relative slow response, if it is a health crisis, is we're not moving at speed because it is purportedly mostly a gay male response? Does anybody worry about that?
It's also not a death sentence. Right. So, I mean, I don't think you can compare the AIDS crisis to monkeypox. Yeah. That is, of course, there are risks with monkeypox that, there are a percentage of people that could, have very bad side effects or also complications. But in general, it's not comparable. But I think it's more the nuisance.
Last question I have about monkeypox. Are we going to take this seriously? Is your feeling of your circle of friends, your immediate circle, your secondary circle of gay or LGBTQ friends, you feel like we're going to take this seriously or we're not?
I've had a lot of friends that have taken it seriously. I too have went and got my first vaccine because it was available. And again, if you can prevent something from happening, I don't see any, and it's medically tested as it has been. Why not do that? And we have a higher prevalence here than in other parts of the country. So for me, it was about prevention.
I think the reaction's mixed. I'm sorry, because you do see on Facebook people going out and throwing caution to the wind to these big parties, and there was one I saw they were going to do like an exchange of things, and it just seemed kind of crazy at this time to be engaged in that kind of stuff, And again, I'm a super advocate, and I'm definitely a sex positive person, and I think people should, have the freedom to do what they want, but let's be more careful.
I agree. I think there's definitely a mixed reaction. I think there are some people are throwing caution to the wind that have COVID fatigue, but I see a lot of people taking it very seriously, and it's my hope that especially vulnerable communities like those who are immunocompromised in our community are taking this especially seriously, and we're prioritizing getting them vaccinated.
Okay.
I have friends in Florida, in the United States, and in other countries who who have contracted it. They've all had very different experiences. My close circle of friends here are taking it very seriously, and I know for a fact that they are making different decisions now because of it. And in dialogue with those friends from across the globe, even though they did contract it, they're indicating to me that their friends are also taking it seriously. So I think it is on our radar in an effective way.
Interesting. Okay, well, we continue to follow the story of monkeypox for sure in our community. Brian, let's talk about something fun.
Now we queer up entertainment. History is made as trans actress Angelica Ross becomes lead for top Broadway musical. The name that's going to be on everybody's lips is going to be Candy. Starting next month, the role of Roxy Hart in Chicago will be taken over by Angelica Ross, the transgender actress made famous by her role as Candy on Pose. Chicago is Broadway's longest-running revival, having been showing for more than 25 years. Ross joins a small group of Black transgender actresses who have taken Broadway by storm recently. In 2018, transgender actress and former RuPaul contestant Peppermint starred in The Go-Go's musical Head Over Heels, and just this year, Elle Morgan Lee earned a Tony for her role in A Strange Loop. You can catch Ross as Roxy Hart in Chicago, starting September 12th.
Wonderful.
This is great. I loved her in Pose. I would love to get to New York to see it.
Oh, wow.
What about is there historical significance here? Is this a big deal, or it's like, no?
I think absolutely. It raises visibility for transgender people, for people of color, and in particular transgender people of color, especially since our society, by and large, ignores violence and crime committed against transgender people of color across the United States.
Yes.
And also, I think, again, it's the mainstreaming of the trans community where, you can imagine if you did a survey at the end of this show to ask people, they would have no idea that a transgender actress was even playing Roxy Hart. They're probably just happy that it wasn't a real housewife. So, I mean, I think this is amazing. I think, again, it's both groundbreaking, but also where you will have people that just are getting to experience a transgender person in some capacity they may have never been able to in the past.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see if it sells tickets or if it stimulates protests and how it plays out on the streets of New York. Jury's out. Don't know.
Yeah, if you were going to, I give you the $20 because I know how cheap you are, so you wouldn't do it. I give you the $20 to put down the bet on the table. Which is it going to be? It's going to sell tickets, or it's going to harm the show?
I think it will initially sell lots of tickets.
Yeah.
Because I think supporters will go out and definitely see the show. It's a fantastic show, so anyone who would want to see it is going to go see it too. So.
My reaction to this news is sadness and joy, both. The joy is that Chicago and the producers, and Broadway is incredibly expensive. They can't take a risk. The reason I ask you on your bet is they can't take that risk. It's too expensive to put on a show for political reasons or for, the history here is not at play in their decision making. They've chosen somebody that can carry the show as the lead. And that is what the news is. And I think that's fantastic. It's fantastic for our community. It's as one who believes that LGBTQ is all 5 of the letters, not 4 of the letters, I celebrate that, and I think it's joyful. The sadness, though, in this notice is how little attention this got. And how little attention this got is not the ticket buyer or people in New York that says, oh, here's the history or historic nature of this. The sadness is how little attention it got in our own LGBTQ community. That makes me sad, because if this story, if Queer News Tonight had been around in 2006, this would be the lead front page story on the New York Times, and we would be reporting the New York Times story talking about it. Today, in August of 2022, it's And that makes me sad, because when we have these historic triumphs in our community, the first place that should be exuberant on those historic triumphs is our own community.
See, Al, I think that you and me should take the Happening Out crew up there and broadcast live.
Broadcast it live.
Opening night, see it. All expenses paid, of course, by the network.
Of course.
Or no, well, by Al personally.
Oh, now it's to me.
Yeah.
It's very exciting news. LGBTQ community, when you see moments like this, you should be taking the celebration of all of us, celebrating her being able to be the first trans lead, and we should celebrate the movement that America is making, because that's how we defeat the crazy gaslighters at the other end of the spectrum.
Absolutely right. Next, let's queer up the USA view. Library defunded for LGBTQ plus books raises $80,000 in donations.
I don't think they truly understand the repercussions of what they've done.
But why did people vote no? Well, it started more than a year ago when resident Salem Sousley said Patmos Library had a pride section on display for the month of June, featuring a book called Gender Queer.
So that's kind of where the grooming thing happened, was that you're allowing kids to see explicit material.
Sousley said patrons then began looking at books and got confused about ebooks versus printed books and started targeting the library and its funding at large because they believe that representation of LGBTQ plus people is the equivalent of grooming kids for sexual exploitation. But although the handful of books were put behind the counter and had to be specifically requested, residents demanded they be removed from the library altogether. When the Patmos staff and elected board of directors said they wouldn't do that, a group of upset parents and community members efforted a campaign to defeat the library's millage renewal.
The library could shut down completely, which means that every Jamestown resident would be unable to have a public library.
Library Director Amber McLean resigned this spring, posting a public statement saying she'd been harassed, called a pedophile, and broken down. Interim Director Matthew Lawrence also resigned at a later time. The no vote strips the 2023 budget for the Patmos Library, so a closure could happen by then unless another millage renewal is approved before.
A lot of people were depending on the millage because they were going to raise librarian salary or hourly wages, and like the director was going to be full-time. It is going to shut down. You are not going to have your coding classes and your reading classes and your game nights. Nobody's going to read to your kids. That's where they do the local blood drives, and they're just not going to have that anymore. People rent out that space. It's not going to be a polling station anymore.
The library board will talk about its financial outlook at its next meeting.
In the past year, the Patmos Library in Michigan has been facing harassment for refusing to remove LGBTQ plus books from their shelves. The Jamestown Conservatives group has held rallies in an attempt to get funding blocked for the library, saying, quote, "They're trying to groom our children to believe that it's okay to have these sinful desires. It's not a political issue, it's a biblical issue," end quote. After the library lost the millage vote, meaning they will no longer receive tax money for funding, the library board president was asked if that was a wake-up call. He responded, quote, "A wake-up call to what? To take LGBTQ books off the shelf and then they will give us money? What do you call that? Ransom? We stand behind the fact that our community is made up of a very diverse group of individuals, and we as a library cater to the diversity of our community." Two local residents have set up GoFundMe campaigns to help save the library and raise the $250,000 required for the year. As of today, the largest campaign, called Fund Patmos Library in Jamestown, Michigan for 2023, and created by Jesse Dillman, has raised $76,225. The second campaign, called Save Patmos Library and the First Amendment, created by Michelle Barros, has raised $3,789. They ask anyone who is able to donate at the GoFundMe page.
Awesome story.
I mean, I think it's just really interesting. First of all, I've been again here in Broward County, where our library is run by county government. But that should be a warning sign to everyone that if you don't have people running your government that are going to promote free speech, you could lose those books. At least this library has the ability to raise funds and be independent, it sounds like.
Quick question. The director of the National LGBTQ Task Force National Dinner in Miami Beach just said we need to get out and vote.
Yes.
Really? Did you say that?
Out and vote.
I heard you loud and clear.
We are trying to queer the vote.
Good. Exactly. Other thoughts about library?
This is a case of if you are not at the table, you are on the menu.
Yeah.
And that is why it is so important that LGBTQ plus people and their supporters engage in all levels of government and participate in our upcoming elections.
Yeah.
So what was interesting to me in the video clip was that the people were confused over what were physical books and what were e-books. Those are the people that are protesting the library.
Yeah.
People who don't know the difference between a physical book and an e-book.
Or
they were just
reading.
Reading is fundamental.
And in terms of the number of LGBTQ plus books they have, I can't imagine there are rows and rows of them.
Again, it doesn't matter. It's the protest.
And the fact is that it's a community center as well. So they're destroying their community just to...
They were just mad because they couldn't figure out how to burn ebooks.
Right?
Control-Alt-Delete.
Right.
That's great.
You know, we're sitting at the proverbial choir on Patmos, Michigan, at this table. We have 2 college professors and 2 political advocates from the National Task Force. So we pretty much know where we sit on the and the anchor at Queer News tonight. So we all know the choir that this table is. However, there's a number of things that are really, I think, important for the broad LGBTQ community. First off, this is not New York City we're talking about. Giant city. This is not Wilton Manors, which is a small city, 13,000 residents. This wouldn't happen in Wilton Manors, and it wouldn't happen in New York City. The great thing on this story is it's Patmos, Michigan. And for all of the people that think, oh, Al, geez, you just pound and pound and pound, take hope. Patmos, Michigan gives us some hope. And the reason is because this is a grassroots, small town, small community response on something that is not sexy and is not Fox News and is not Donald Trump pounding on a table. It's a library in small town America saying, wait, diversity matters. Fantastic news for us to all pay attention to. Second, we want our libraries, exactly to the point that you made. Our libraries are important. Books are important. We don't live in Twitter, and books are important as a result of that. And I think, Tai, you make, of course, the point that this little library is so critical for this little village town of Patmos, Michigan, because it's not only the access to the books, it is the access to the community. It is the community center where we can get together and express ideas, and we can talk about what we're reading about, and we can play games, and we can do other kinds of things. It's exactly what we want. It's exactly what they don't want. They don't want to create intellectual thought. And when you don't have small town Kentucky libraries, you lead to Mitch McConnell's. Just saying. And then my final thought on what we're watching here is this is exactly why you go out and support. This is a learning lesson. This is not an LGBT story, because while LGBT may be participating in this 80,000 that has been raised of the 250,000 that they need to keep the Patmos Library going, it is an illustration for us of exactly what we should be supporting. We can't just complain.
Right.
They are taking action. First, stop. Keep your damn money. We don't care. Because if you're asking us to make a choice of culture and life or your money and oppress, we choose culture and life. And we'll find the money some other way. Great learning lesson for all of us. And second, it is a learning lesson to not complain. Take some kind of action, whether it be to give money to the task force at the national dinner, or do something, the simplest, least thing that you can do, which may be the greatest thing you can do, register to damn vote and show up November 8th, or vote in advance. And it's funny that we're talking to so many LGBT in America. Little tiny Patmos, Michigan, teaches us we can do it, and we should do it. That's why this is a great story, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, now let's queer up gay culture. Rare footage of 1945 gay pool party shows World War II gay culture. Jeff Story is a St. Louis native who loves media and history. In 1996, he was at an estate sale where he found 2 canisters of old home movie film. They showed a pool party in 1945 and featured a group of gay men. Footage of gay men from World War II era America is exceptionally rare, and since 2017, Jeff has been working on identifying the men in the film so that he can interview their friends and family and help build a story of what gay life was like in mid-century St. Louis. You can see images of the men from the film and find out more at gayhomemovie.com.
Is this awesome? First off, I was watching that video closely. Tai, I think I caught you in that.
No, Al, I was pretty sure it was like your. I was pretty sure it was like your grandkids.
No, and I'm pretty sure it was you because I saw you tying the flags to the outhouse in where this pool party was going.
That was to lock you in.
I think this is such an important story. You know, one of the things that we tried to make as a focus of our LGBTQ council in Hollywood is telling our
time, you know, in 2002 or something. So it's a great story.
Well, one more thing about our history. I just flew into San Francisco and got to see the Harvey Milk display in the airport, and how blown away I was by the amount of history that was there.
I love what you just said because I know our opposition. That's exactly the opposite of what they want. They really, especially white gay men, they don't really care. What they want is just be anonymous, be quiet, don't speak up, don't be in schools, don't talk about trans. That's what they want, which is the exact antithesis of what you just said.
Yeah.
And that's why we have to fight for what you just said.
We can't be silent.
We can't be silent. We cannot.
All right, very well. So next, we are proud of our special partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale. Supporting that partnership, we are broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine Cathedral at the Happening Out television studios. We broadcast Sunshine Cathedral's Sunday International Service at 10:30 a.m. with more than 30,000 watching every week.
Air hostess to the stars and beyond, coming from Miami Beach. The Sunshine Cathedral is my queer church. Mwah.
That is today's news for the LGBTQ+ community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ+ evening news show.
If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Are you, like most Americans, part of our very large television audience watching this live LGBTQ news broadcast right now on Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, and Amazon Fire TV?
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ+ digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support.
If our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world.
This is the only place in the world that tells these type of LGBTQ+ stories in motion and sound. And that is the passion of Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and especially Queer News Tonight. I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and on behalf of these LGBTQ plus reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including Ryan Hurst, Chris Vila, Jeff Oliverio, and Dr. Tai Houser. We will see you daily at 8 p.m. And to our LGBTQ plus world, we wish you
good night.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the